Hi, everyone. I hope that you're having a great Sabbath. And I was looking at the comments from a video I did about 8 days ago about how does the Most High feel about his Israelite chosen people marrying non-Israelites. And I did get just one bit of pushback, and I can show you that. Is how does the Most High see Israelites coupling with non-Israelites? And the comment I got was, let's see, where's that at in the Torah? And this is from Judah Netzarah, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Where's that at in the Torah? Why the Most High make me and my group the most learned and most feared in the Torah, and my wife is Japanese and everyone knows her. I'm not sure what everyone having knowing her has to do with it, but okay. Oh, I know it ain't going to be no answer for that according to the Torah. Okay, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. So, we got a reply from Michael Hyman who said, if the words of Deuteronomy 7, chapter 1 through 3 verse, I think, I'm not good with emojis. That is one of the first 5 books of the Bible. Now, for a little more on the debate people are having, some bring up the equal yoke argument, both husband and wife following the way. Now, I am not the Most High, He's the only real judge. You believe you are the most learned. There's always someone that has a greater understanding. I will say I'm learning and open to the Most High increase. So I did reply and give him 2 other scriptures. So that is Deuteronomy 7, 1 through 3, which Michael above had already given him. Exodus 34, 15 through 16, which says, be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land, for when they prostitute themselves to their gods and sacrifice to them, they will I'm sorry, invite you, and you will eat their sacrifices. And when you choose some of their daughters as wives for your sons, and those daughters prostitute themselves to their gods, they will lead your sons to do the same. And also Numbers 25, 1 through 3. While Israel was staying in Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with Moabite women who invited them to the sacrifices to their gods. The people ate the sacrificial meal and bowed down before these gods. So Israel yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor, and the Lord's anger burned against them. Okay, so while I'm at it, let me read Deuteronomy 7, 1 through 3. When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess, and drives out before you many nations, do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons. Okay, I think that's pretty plain. And also, one thing I noticed, it says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess. I think that before that, he had not told the people that they should not marry outside their nations. But as I said before, and if I can remember, I'll look it up. I think the book of Jasher, or even the book that about each one of the 12 sons, I think it told you there that they married Shemites. So, the Israelites are descendants of Shem. But let me go back to David's wives. David had several wives, and I'm not sure it even told you the exact number. If it did, um, I don't have it here, and it's not really that important to what I'm trying to say. I had told you before that I thought that David mostly married non-Israelite women, and I truly apologize for that. I I think I said that I would look it up or research it, but I don't like giving misinformation, even if I'm telling you I'm not sure. But I think I did say I'm not sure. But in any case, um, you can see here the wives that are mentioned in the Bible. and they are Michal was the daughter of King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin, so she was an Israelite. Abigail, the widow of Nabal, a wealthy man from Carmel. Now, she was an Israelite. I'm not sure if he was. I kind of think he wasn't. Ahinoam from Jezreel, the Israelite. And before you start with me about, well, Abigail, if she was married to a non-Israelite, well, that wasn't what she was supposed to do. Okay, well, it doesn't give much information on her, but women are given in marriage. And generally, the man who wants to marry her goes to her father and asks, can she be his wife? So I don't know what happened, but that may have been the case that her husband Nabal was a rich man, and when he came to her father, that her father said, yeah, it's good for her to marry somebody rich. She didn't have any children with him, and because she was righteous and prevented David from annihilating, I think, all the men in her camp, the Most High gave her to David as a wife. So David, in that case, well, let me go on. Ahinoam from Jezreel, she was Israelite. Maacah, daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur, Jezreelite. I want to go back and discuss her with you, but let me name the other wives who were named in the Bible. Haggith was Israelite, Abital, Israelite, Eglah, Israelite, and Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, wife of Uriah the Hittite, Israelite. Now, I've already discussed briefly Bathsheba, and Bathsheba may not have been considered an Israelite. It depends on how many generations have to pass before a person passes from one race to another. But she was the daughter of Eliam, and Eliam's father was Ahithophel. Ahithophel was not a Israelite. He came from one of the nations that the Israelites were supposed to wipe out. But in some cases, they didn't wipe them all out, and they became high in the court by the time David came along. That's why Ahithophel was definitely not an Israelite, but he was still very prominent in David's court. So the person I wanted to discuss was Maacah, a daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. Now, in the book I wrote, I had written that uh, Maacah was a daughter of a giant. I'm sorry, not the daughter, the granddaughter of a giant. Um, I that may or may not be true, but the giant I connected her to was not her father, and let me show you. Okay, Maacah was the daughter of Talmai. Maacah was the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur, and became one of King David's wives. She is the mother of Absalom and Tamar. Her marriage to David is noted in 2 Samuel 3:3. His third was Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. Okay, who was Talmai? Was the king of Geshur, a small Aramean kingdom and a contemporary of David. He gave his daughter Maacah in marriage to David. Maacah was the mother of Tamar and Absalom. After Absalom killed Amnon for raping Tamar, he fled to Geshur for 3 years. To see where that information came from, Topical Bible, Talmai, and also Wikipedia. Okay, we know that Talmai was the king of Geshur, but what was Geshur? Who were these people? Before I can tell you who the Jeshurites were, I have to go back to the conquest of Canaan, which is found in Deuteronomy 7:1 and 2, which reads, when the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess, and drives out before you many nations, the Hittites, the Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you, and you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. make no treaty with them, and show them no mercy. These nations were to be completely destroyed to prevent the Israelites from adopting their practices and worshiping their gods. The command is reiterated in Joshua 3:10 and Joshua 24:11, and this is co-pilot. What I want you to notice is that the Jeshurites listed here. So what happened to them? Now this can get complicated, but please bear with me. At the conquest of Canaan, there were 7 nations that the Most High told Joshua needed to be conquered. Now they did not conquer all of them. There were certain places, as I've mentioned in earlier videos, that they weren't able to conquer. And one of those was Jeshur. Now the question is, who were these Jeshurites? Where did they come from? Oh, you might have heard of gotquestions.org. So I asked who were the Jeshurites, and it says that they were a tribe east and northwest of the Sea of Galilee. The people of Jeshur are absent from the list of nations mentioned in God's promise to Abraham at Genesis 15, 18 through 21. But they are mentioned in the list of people groups that the Israelites, after the conquest of Canaan, still need to defeat in Joshua 13:12. Unfortunately, the Israelites were unable to completely drive out the Jeshurites. But when you ask, okay, who is the progenitor of the Jeshurites, you pretty much don't get an answer. So I looked up, okay, you say that they're Aramaeans, or one of these sources did. Who did the Aramaeans come from? Is they're related to like the Syrians, but they descend from Shem. And if so do the 12 tribes of Israel through Abraham. So the Jeshurites come from, if they're Aramaean, they come from Shem. But the thing with the Jeshurites is that no one wants to directly claim them. I can find the father of Talmai, who was the king of the Jeshurites. And the reason the Jeshurites are important is because David married and had children with them, with the daughter, Maacah. So if they came from Shem, or if they didn't come from Shem, where did they come from? So I think that there is a mystery to them, and I think that it is meant to be so. Because I think that, well, I know that the Bible was inspired by the Most High. I have no problem with that, but people mistake inspiration for like the Ten Commandments, which God actually wrote. My point is that I think that there is a reason why the Jeshurites, the actual progenitor who started them, is a mystery, because it's something that people didn't really want known when they were writing the Bible, because uh, because they married into the royal family, into the royal house. Now I think that the person who would have had most control over the words that were recorded was probably Bathsheba, because she was mother of the king and also very close to the king. But that is total subjecture. What is the word? Whatever the word is on my part. I don't know that. I'm just saying that that is a possibility as to why these people are such a mystery. But there is one other point I want to make about them. This is another article I found on answerthebible.com. And it's a simple question. Who were the Jesuitites? And I think that it gave you a very big clue as to why it's so difficult to find them. And let me read just the first paragraph to you. The Jeshurites were an ancient people group that inhabited the land of Jeshur during biblical times. Jeshur was a small kingdom located east of the Sea of Galilee in the region between Mount Hermon and the Golan Heights. Excuse me. The Jeshurites are mentioned several times in the Old Testament, particularly in relation to King David's family ties. Okay, that's not the okay, here it is. Sorry, two paragraphs. The first reference to the Jeshurites is in Joshua 12:5, which lists Jeshur among the kingdoms defeated by the Israelites under Joshua's leadership as they conquered Canaan, and ruled in Mount Hermon and in Salcah and in all Bashan until the border of the Jeshurites and the Machanthites and half Gilead, the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Case that the land of Jeshur was an established kingdom even before the Israelites entered Canaan. What I want you to pay attention to is where was their land at? Near Mount Hermon. It was one that gave you the exact thing. Here it is. It was in the first paragraph. Jeshur was a small kingdom located east of the Sea of Galilee in the region between Mount Hermon and the Golan Heights. Mount Hermon is where who came down to earth? The fallen angels. And I think that that is the reason why no one is trying to really truly tell you where these people came from, because I think that now some people question, why did God go and tell Joshua to just go exterminate people? Well, I think that it was one guy who wrote a book who was saying that, what was his name? Let me see if I can find what his name was. Anyway, his ideal guy wrote a couple of books or a few books stating that this was a holy war, that the Most High is a loving God, and he didn't just go tell his people, hey, just go exterminate those people. I think that they were descendants of fallen angels. So he's not the only person to say that. Probably many others. It's just he's the only one I've come across lately. It's an excerpt from my book, and you can get it on Amazon, and I'll link and everything. But Jeshur was an Aramean kingdom located east of the Sea of Galilee. The Jeshurites were not driven out by the tribe of Manasseh, and so Jeshur continued not as servants but as an independent kingdom nearby. After Absalom murdered his brother Amnon, Absalom ran to Jeshur, his grandfather Talmai's kingdom. What's really interesting about the Jezreelites is that while they were not Canaanites, they were among those that the Most High slated for removal. Joshua 13:1 and 2 says, Now Joshua was old and stricken in years, and the Lord said unto him, Thou art old and stricken in years, and there remaineth yet much land to be possessed. This is the land that yet remaineth, all the borders of the Philistines, and all Jeshurun. Making is that the Bible doesn't have excess words. If it's telling you something, it's telling you for a reason. And I think a major part of the reason is so that people can survive the last days, so that they'll have examples of what happened to people. So the thing is, out of all the wives that the seven that are named at least, the only two who caused David problems were the ones who were non-Israelite. I told you Bathsheba was at least mixed. I'm not sure if you would call her an Israelite because I'm not sure how far down the generation a person has to be to switch from race to another. From one race to another, I will try to look that up. And the one we're talking about now, Maacah. Now, she had a son named Absalom, and let me give you a synopsis of what happened with Absalom. It's also an excerpt from my book. And it reads, so King David married and procreated with the daughter Maacah of a king Talmah of one of the nations Jeshur that the Most High had targeted for removal. The child this union produced Absalom, revenged, murdered David's elder son Amnon, and later attempted to do what? Usurp his father David's throne. So David's own son, Absalom, attempted to murder him and, take over. One of the things I want people to understand is that the Bible is constantly warning you that while family can be a gift from the Most High, the devil infiltrated it back in the garden and has been the cause of much trouble and suffering ever since. Oh, and it really doesn't help if you marry the grandchild of a descendant of a Most High targeted nation. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. But back to the story. Again, I repeat, out of the 7 named wives of King David, only 2 caused any kind of recorded trouble. And that was Bathsheba, who, if you really examine it, David worked really hard to combine all Israel into one kingdom. He married Bathsheba, and the grandchild he had through her, managed to separate the kingdoms into 2 kingdoms, and they remain separate to this day. The other woman he married, who was definitely not an Israelite, was Maacah. She gave birth to a son named Absalom, who, as I said before, well, if you read the book, the book of Jasher, you'll find that they make reference, even in the Bible, to the attractiveness of Maacah's 2 children, and that was Absalom and Tamar. Tamar was so beautiful, or just because he was like that, David's oldest son Amnon raped her and then just threw her out. So her brother Absalom revenge murdered him and then left the kingdom for a while. For 3 years, he went and lived with who? His maternal grandfather, Talmah, in the land of Jeshur. Because he was not an Israelite, he had another place to go. And also, I think that people, the fallen angels, probably had a preference for pale skin. And that is not the same as saying the Most High had a preference for pale skin, because I don't believe Adam nor Eve could have been anything other than black, because it makes a point of telling you they came from the dust. Have you ever seen any pale dust? No, pale dust is generally sand. So just because the world has a preference for pale skin does not mean that the Most High does also. But the thing about Absalom and Tamar, they were both considered very beautiful, and they had a lot of hair. They had very long, thick hair. Now, that is generally not one of the traits usually associated with dark-skinned people. Even when we have long, thick hair, it's still not spoken of the way that this was spoken of. So, in any case, after that, um, David's David's nephew comes to him and says, "Hey, why don't you let him come back?" Because I kind of think it's understandable. Not that you should kill people, but I can definitely understand him being upset, Absalom being upset over what happened to his sister. So David says, "Okay, he can come back, but he can't be around me." So eventually, Absalom comes back, and he's evidently very charming, and he talks the king into letting him come and, come back to court. But instead of being grateful for that, he decides to overthrow his own father, the king. So all of this is in the Bible, and I don't want to tell you the whole story because I think it would be nice if you actually read it there. And or I don't know, for a commentary, please consider looking at my book. It would mean a lot to me. But again, this to me is telling you marry in your own nation. I mean, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm only telling you or reminding you of what the Bible says. Now, the Most High leaves everything up to you. That is, if you don't want to do what he says, you don't have to. It's just a matter of eventually you'll suffer the consequences for not doing it. That is another reason why I am on here, because I had written that Talmai came from um, Anak, and that was incorrect. And I don't want to tell you anything incorrect because I don't want the Most High mad at me. I want to get it right. So let me show you that. This is Wikipedia about Talmai. Okay, and the first one is Talmai and his brothers Nephilim. Talmai, Ahinman, and Sheshai were Nephilim, three giant sons of Anak, whom Caleb and the spies saw in Mount Hebron. Book of Numbers 13:22. When they went in to explore the land, they were afterwards driven out and slain, as recorded in Joshua 15:14 and Judges 1:10. The other, now that was the one I had initially thought was the father of Makkah. But no, her father is Talmai, father of Makkah, king of Jeshur. His daughter Makkah was a wife to the king David of Israel, mother of Tamar and Absalom. After slaying Amnon for the rape of Tamar, Absalom fled to Talmai in Jeshur for 3 years. So I I hope that clears up everything. I am so grateful if you stayed this long. You really have no idea. Please give me a like and please, what is it? Tell me what you think about this whole story. I found it fascinating. I just find King David fascinating. And don't in any way think I'm trying to attack King David. No, what I'm trying to show is that even righteous people make mistakes. It's just that the more important you are, the more long lasting that mistake might be, or the more people it's going to affect. But the Most High knows we are but dust. But still, we should be dust trying to do right. So, like I said, please give me a like, please share, subscribe, and comment. It is much appreciated. Even if you totally disagree, let me know. Just be nice, or rather yet, don't be nice. Nice just means naive. Be kind. You guys have a great rest of your Sabbath.